Ah, nice roaring fire. Ah, so relaxing. Some people relax by burning incense. I used to burn incense in my condo back when I had, a little condo out in the mountains, and I thought it was a relaxing, fill the house up with a nice, pleasant aroma. And after moving into this house, and my girlfriend moved in with me, and I realized that she hates incense. It actually bothers her greatly. Well, she's not here today. So we're going to go ahead and dispose of this incense. Now what I want to do is something that probably should never be done. I'm going to get rid of all of this in one load. I've got rain. I've got ocean. Now, these are very inexpensive, very poor quality dragonwood. They actually are known to cause... Oh, patchouli. They're known to cause indoor air quality problems because they're just so poorly made. They're just really bad. So we're going to just get rid of these and conduct a little experiment. We're going to see if we can make the entire neighborhood smell like a head shop. Here we go. And we don't need these anymore. They're wood. They can burn. Let's see. There they go. So it's in the back of the firebox, so the smell should just go straight up the chimney. Burn nicely too. Now I can't smell any of it right now. At all. In fact, yeah, if I stick my nose right up to the fireplace, you'd think I'd smell it a little bit, but I don't. At all. Huh. That is a lot of incense to burn in one shot, though. That's like, what, 6 packets, almost full? If you're going to burn incense in your home, it's probably best to stay away from the 99-cent packs that you find at your local Walmart. From what I've read, they are, again, very poor quality. Yeah, I can't smell any of it. Let's take a walk outside. Nope. Smells a little weird, but a lot of you have been asking about my beloved frog, Rosie the Ribbitor, and there she is, looking all sad. Rosie is 4 years old, and I got her as a froglet, basically. And she also had a friend whose name was, I don't even remember what the frog's name was. Her friend passed away about 2 years ago after a pretty lengthy illness. And Rosie's been alone ever since. I haven't gotten her any new friends because, if you recall in an earlier video I had a couple years ago, if you introduce a baby frog to an adult frog, generally the baby frog becomes food. And that's just how it works. It's a very unfortunate reality, but that's how it is. I have made many videos on how to take care of and raise African clawed frogs, but apparently that wasn't good enough because I've seen some people create much lengthier videos detailing the same process. So anyway, hey, I'm not perfect. So here's the thing. The fact that she's still alive is nothing short of a miracle. When I bought this house, actually no, before that, when I sold my condo, I had no time to plan my move, and it sold. I was expecting it to sit in the market for a couple of months. It sold after just 3 or 4 days on the market. So I had to scramble and get out of there as fast as I could. So the unfortunate thing is I couldn't move my entire aquarium and set it up somewhere else. And no, I had to move her out of her nice little glass aquarium, her 20-gallon tank, into a little 5-gallon tank. And it was in that 5-gallon tank that she started getting pretty sick. Now, the 5-gallon tank was on my parents' kitchen counter next to the sink. See, what I had to do is I had to move out of my condo into my parents' house temporarily until I could find and purchase a home, which took me about a month and a half before I went from when I signed the papers to when I actually moved in. So for that time, it was kind of, she was, in a less than desirable home. She went from living on well water, which was purified and very clean water, good quality water too. Still no odor at all. Anyway, to living in town water, the town that my parents live in. And furthermore, there was no heat. I couldn't get a heater in that tank safely. And I couldn't put a filtration system in there because, again, I was imposing on my parents, and I had to put the tank on the counter. It was the only surface in the home I could put it, and where it was close to water. The end result was I ended up changing the water about every 3 days because it was getting very dirty very fast. The rule of thumb for tank size per frog is, I believe, 10 gallons per frog. So for a 10-gallon tank, you can have 1 frog. For a 20-gallon tank, you can have no more than 2. For a 5-gallon tank, you can have maybe a baby frog or a dwarf frog or something like that. But that's it. Anyway, so she was not in an ideal climate for about a month and a half. So what ended up happening was I closed on this condo, and I started fixing it up and moving my stuff into it. And when everything was all set up and established, I moved her. And I first set up her tank and filled it with city water. I'm now in a much larger metropolis compared to where I was. So I have city water, which is good water, but it's treated with all these chemicals and things that aren't so great for living creatures like frogs and fish and toads. So what I did was I filled the tank, I let it run for a little while, a couple of days, and then I moved her into it. Let the water kind of settle a little bit. It was shortly after that she started to get kind of, she was gaining weight throughout the time she was in my parents' kitchen, but she was starting to look very unhealthy. And I knew that you can't just take a poor little creature like that and just move them from one body of water, from a completely different water source to another in such a short period of time without ill effects. And I was not wrong. She was not looking good. Things were looking pretty bad. In fact, I came home from work one day and she was essentially dead. Yes, she is a miracle. She was basically floating on the top. I mean, she was upside down, kind of at an angle. So, like, imagine, so this is how she is now. Imagine like this. Not very good. I've never seen any of my frogs ever do that before. So I'm like, okay, this isn't good. So I nudged her a little bit. I first, little side tidbit information there. If you ever find that your frogs or fish or whatever animals are in your tank are dead, and you have, let's say you have multiple creatures in there, and they're all dead, or if you have one and it's dead, think precaution, because what can happen? This is something that I learned years ago, and I actually put this into practice once because something did in fact happen to me when my heater malfunctioned. There could be 2 reasons why those creatures are dead, and one of those reasons is electrocution. So never stick your hands in an aquarium that has, I mean, it seems kind of like a no-brainer, but there's a reason why, and it's that there could be an electrical malfunction which may have caused the animal to pass away, and you don't know that until, you know. So I unplugged the heater and the pump, and I took my little net there. I have a fish net thing. That thing there. And I went to go pick her up. I nudged her a few times. Now this is where things get, you know, a little bit sad. I mean, when you touch a frog, if it's not dead, it's going to respond. If you touch it, you nudge it, you kind of try to move it around. If it's not dead, it will respond. They'll either start kicking or flailing their arms. Something will happen. They'll try to get away. And she did none of those things. She wasn't moving at all. No emotion. I'd move her in the water with it. I put her in the net, and I kind of moved the net around, and she was just kind of flopping around like she was, no, dead. Picked her up, kind of rinsed her out, or you know, did the whole, you know, strain the water out of the thing. And I started carrying her over here. I had her, she was like right about this point here. I'm getting ready to flush her, when all of a sudden, an unseen hand from above did what it did, and she started kicking and screaming and kicking and flailing her little froggy arms like, what the hell are you doing to me? So that is what happened. She came back to life. And I put her back in the tank. I gave her a little food. She gingerly ate the food. And she was starting to kind of come back to her own. And that was about a month and a half ago. Maybe closer to 2 months ago. Been in the house for about 2.5 months. About a month and a half. And there she is. Look at her. She's moving around, showing us what she's got. She's doing very well. She's actually lost weight. She's looking healthier. Her color's back. Things are good. The only chemicals I ever use in my tank are aquarium salt and stress coat. And those help to treat the water, to make the water safer and somehow reduce stress. And I don't know how that all works, but I'm not a chemist, and I'm not a marine biologist, so I don't know how any of this works. I just know what I've learned from experience and what I've read from other pet owners. But she's still alive. She's doing well. I'd love to get her a companion, but I'd have to find her an adult frog, and that's kind of hard to do sometimes. Since a lot of times these little guys don't live beyond a couple of years because they're not well cared for, or the owners had an experience like I did, you know, and they just don't live long enough to grow into full adults. But in either case, when she eventually does pass away, I'm considering switching over to tropical fish, just because I kind of want to do something a little more colorful and creative with this tank. Frog tanks are supposed to be pretty basic. You don't want to have a lot of accessories. You don't want to have a water bubbler. You really want to have as little water movement as possible. The fact that I have a filter going right now is, I mean, I have to have a filter. So I have it set to its lowest flow rate. I love the Aqua Clear filters. These are amazing products. They're made by Hagen, I believe, still. Maybe they got sold out, I'm not sure. But the Aqua Clear filters are the best filters in the market, in my opinion. Oh, Fluval is the name that they're going under now. So if you see one, if you're looking to establish an aquarium and you want to know what kind of filters to buy, or what... Some log just kind of crumbled there. I'm going to deal with that in a minute. If you want to know what kind of filter to buy, definitely consider the Aqua Clear series. This is what they all look like. The filter hasn't changed at all, aside from branding. In the nearly 30 years or more they've been in production, because they got it right the first time. It's a fantastic filter with adjustable flow rate. The media costs aren't too high. And I have mine set for 4-stage filtration. It's not something that they officially support as far as I know, but I find that my water stays clearer much longer if I run a mechanical, a carbon stage, mechanical meaning the sponge, carbon, and then I put an ammonia stage in there and a bio stage. The filter comes with all of those stages except for the ammonia. You get your mechanical, which is your particle filter, you get your carbon sac, and you get your biofilter. But I run all of those plus an ammonia filter, and I find that the water is so clear, there's almost no detectable odor, and you can run it that way for months. I mean, every like 3 or 4 weeks, I change out half the water. And then the next time I change out that half of water, or no, what I'll do is I'll alternate. So I'll change out half the water, and then in a couple of weeks, I'll take the filter down, clean all the stages out, replace any that look to be, expended. And then I run it, then I change half the water a couple of weeks later, and you can kind of alternate. You never do it all at once. That's how you lose your water stability, from what I found. Again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert, but I've had good luck keeping these little critters alive for years and years. The only time I've ever had any major death events, it's been a malfunction of the tank. I had 3 frogs in this tank. All 3 of them died. One of them was about 4-5 years old, maybe. The other 2 were about 2 years old, maybe 3, and they all died because the heater leaked, caused a short circuit. Remember what I said about water safety? If you have dead critters, don't reach in and try to revive them or grab them or anything. Always use precaution. Unplug anything going into that tank, because you don't know what's going on, unless you do. Either way. So yeah, she's doing fine. My tank is pretty stable right now. I'm going to have to look at maybe adopting a frog. If I'm going to reach out to some pet shops, I think, and see if I can't find her a companion. I find that, frogs aren't, African clods are not necessarily social creatures. They do like companions, and if you do have more than one frog, they will often cluster together. That's just what they do. So, and I think they do that as a natural reflex for safety. They're less likely to be attacked by a predator if they're together, and I think that's kind of it's an instinct that they have. But I'll get a good look at her. She's looking pretty good for an adult female. Now, I get a lot of people who see her and they say, "Oh my God, she's so fat." I'm like, yeah, she's a female, and that's not a sexist thing. Female frogs are much larger than their male counterparts. A male frog will be much thinner, and a male frog, a male African clawed frog, will vocalize. Generally, when the lights are off, they'll start to chirp or make like a cricket sound. You'll hear it. It's done entirely underwater. They don't surface to make their mating calls. They do it all underwater. I had a male frog once, and it was quite vocal. It was nice to hear. And they generally only vocalize in calm water, so having the filter run is something that may discourage that. But the female frogs generally remain completely silent unless the male calls and the female is interested. The female will respond with a very slow clicking sound, kind of like that. The more interested she is, the more rapid you'll hear that sound, or the more rapid that sound will be. So yeah. Also, she does shed on occasion. These frogs will shed their skin on an almost regular basis. When they're sick, they will shed their skin. It'll take a while. You'll notice that they have, skin kind of loose in certain spots. So if it happens to be like on a regular thing for them, like if your frog is shedding its skin like all the time, there's a sickness. They may have some kind of an illness causing that. But there she is. I just fed her, so she's very active. But anyway, I thought I'd give you guys an update. I get a lot of requests about the state of my frog's health, so I figured that should at least satisfy some of you viewers. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best. Until then.